Yes, Bloomsday weekend is finally here. So last year I missed running a sub 60-minute Bloomsday by 47 seconds. 47 seconds, can't you just sprint a little bit faster at the end and get that? Maybe. But here's a little bit of what I've done this year to try and get that sub 60-minute Bloomsday this year. So this year I've added a lot more volume and mileage this year in general, mostly aerobic-based, slower paced runs just to increase my overall fitness. And because most of my races this year are going to be mountain trail races, so I'm definitely not going to be speedy on those. I'm not going to be trying to win anything. I'm just wanting to go out there for that experience. So that's what most of my training is going to be this summer and has been up until this point. But having said that, that aerobic training will hopefully improve my endurance during these anaerobic experiences. So another thing that I did was last weekend I went on a run to simulate the last 4-ish miles of Bloomsday. Started with a couple of hill climbs to simulate the last couple of hills, and then just tried to hold my pace that I'm going to need after that for a couple of miles, so that I can try to see how that feels after climbing those hills and then seeing how my body is responding endurance-wise there. So here's a little bit how that went. Started with what I will plan on being my pre-race breakfast. About an hour and a half before I started running. Had a little bit of coffee and a gel with some caffeine right before I started. Once I got out, just warmed up for about 20 minutes at a slow jog, and then started with a little bit of a downhill section at my race pace, and then turned around and started up the hill. The first hill climb, I was about 10 to 15 seconds slower than my goal pace up the hills during Bloomsday, which was fine. It leveled out a little bit, was maybe about a fifth of a mile or so that was flat, and then another hill climb. And that one I did go a little bit faster than my goal pace. I held it about 10 seconds faster all the way up the hill and felt good. And then once it flattened out, just wanted to see if I could hold my about 7:45 per minute mile pace that I'm going to need after that to hit that sub 60. So my average pace on the last 3 miles, which was mostly flat, was about 7 minutes and 40 seconds per mile. So that was great. And I did feel really good. Right at the end, I really started to feel some fatigue, but up until then it was fine. So then I also spent some time calculating the different times that I'm going to need at different points along the race instead of relying solely on my watch. If you watched last year's video on Bloomsday, towards the end I described how I'd kind of plotted it out on Google Maps, and it came out a little bit longer than what the official course actually is. So this year I know that, and rather than relying solely on my watch, I'm going to go by times that I need to be at certain points on the course. I think will be much more accurate for me. It was very interesting to see that up until the end of the last climb, I was actually on pace or slightly ahead of my time that I needed to run a sub 60. But I think at that point I just got in my own head thinking that, okay, I have too much distance left, too little time, I'm not going to make it. So I just subconsciously just ran a little bit too slow. But this year, I'm not going to let that happen. So let me know in the comments below if you've run Bloomsday or if you want to. And if you're out there this weekend, if you see me, say hi.